Hi, my name is Larissa. Today we are going to learn about the prompt hierarchy we use when teaching our clients. We are going to go over what a prompt is, why they are important, and cover the 7 types of prompting. A prompt is an instruction, a demonstration, or a touch that increases the learner's correct response. We may also define it as assistance that is given by an adult before or during the learner's attempt of a skill. When prompting, there is a chain to follow. We either follow least to most or most to least. The least to most model starts off with the lowest level prompting and moves into the most invasive level prompting. The most to least model is the exact opposite. We start with the most invasive prompting and then we move down to the lowest level of prompting. Prompting is important because we want to see the target behavior or receive the correct response when we give a learner a demand. When prompting the learner the correct response, we can reinforce the response that is given although we prompted it. Giving this reinforcement motivates the learner and increases the chance the learner will respond independently in the future. Here are the 7 types of prompting. I have it laid out from the least intrusive to the most intrusive. First, we can begin with a light touch or a shadow. We can move on to a 2-second delay at a light touch or shadow. Next, we go to a manual guidance at the forearm. We can move on to a 2-second delay at the forearm. Now we go to the manual guidance at the upper arm. And now we can go on to the 2-second delay at the upper arm. Our last and most intrusive is going to be the hand over hand. You can see that if you go from hand over hand to light touch or shadow, that is going to be the most independent for our clients, as we want to gain independence. To further explain the prompt levels, we are going to start off with light touch or a shadow. You may gently touch the learner's elbow or move towards the correct response. So if a child is working on finding a picture of an apple out of an array of 3 different items, we may gently touch their elbow to move them towards the apple. Second delay, light touch or shadow. Here again, we are going to wait for 2 seconds after the learner has not independently responded to our demand, and then you may gently touch the learner's elbow or move towards the correct response. So again, with the apple example, we will wait for 2 seconds, and then we will just gently touch their elbow, and it will move towards the apple. Next, you can use the manual guidance at the upper arm. You may gently take the learner's upper arm and move it towards the correct response. So if we're still working on the apple, you may gently take their arm and move it towards the apple. Our next prompt level is a 2-second delay guidance at the upper arm. Here again, we wait for 2 seconds, and then you may gently take the learner's upper arm and move it towards a correct response. So we're going to take a step back and go back to the apple example. If the client is not engaging in the correct response when you give the demand of touching the apple, you may wait for 2 seconds, and then you will gently grab the upper arm and move it towards the apple. Next, you may use the manual guidance at the forearm. You may gently take the learner's forearm and move it towards the correct response. So here, if we're working on the apple again, we can take the forearm and we can move it towards the apple. For our next type of prompting, we can use a 2-second delay manual guidance at the forearm. So here we wait 2 seconds, and then you may gently take the learner's forearm and move it towards the correct response. So if we give the demand of stacking the Legos, and they are still playing over here, we wait for 2 seconds, and then we may gently grab their arm and move it towards the stack of blocks over here where we want them to stack them at. Next, we move on to hand over hand. You may gently take the learner's hand in yours and move it towards the correct response. So instead of the apple, here we are going to use a Lego example. We're trying to build a tower with Legos, and our client is playing with them one by one instead of stacking them. After we gave the demand of stacking the Legos and they do not comply, we can use our hand and gently grab it, have them grab the Lego and stack them on top of one another. It is important to remember to start at the prompt level the supervisor wants to teach this skill. If it is least to most, Start with the least intrusive and move up the chain. Do not skip from the lowest prompting level to the most intrusive prompting level without consulting the supervisor. This is also very important to keep in mind if you are using the most to least prompting model. All in all, we discussed the definition of a prompt, why a prompt is important, and the 7 types of prompting. I really hope this was helpful.